Alrighty, guys. Week 2 of December is in the books, which means there is only 2 weeks left in our year-long competition. So you know where we have to start tonight. Year-long, not for the month. Obviously, the current month scores are at the bottom of the screen. Year-long, where are we at?
I'm sitting at a fairly comfortable 9.43%.
Okay. Kyle?
I have made it back above 1%.
Ooh.
Yes. Excellent. I'm at just over 14.
Oh, God.
Remember that a bunch of my portfolio is very heavily crypto-weighted, so...
Yeah, it is true.
This is not over. As much as I would like to say it is, I know better than to do that. So, week over week, there's not a lot of movement in terms of monthly scores for December. So unless anybody made any moves that they want to talk about, I'm going to go back to beating up on better.com because they were in the news again this week. So, did anybody make any moves before we have some fun?
I have not. I kind of just... Everything looked pretty happy, so I figured maybe I'll just... I don't know. I don't know what moves to make.
Yeah, I mean, this close to the end, unless you're really convicted about something, I don't think you have to do anything.
Yeah.
Kyle, any moves?
No, I don't think so. I guess I could sell like maybe Microsoft and do something, but I think I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at, to be honest. I'm actually pretty glad I made back most of the money from the first 10%. So.
Yeah, I mean, from where you started to where you are, the fact that you are in the green at all is very impressive. So, nice work. Now the moment we've all been waiting for. Better.com, once again in the headlines. We saw midweek that the head of PR, one of the marketing heads, and I want to say one of the human resources people, was that the third one?
Yeah.
All jointly submitted letters of resignation, so that's great. And now the CEO is taking time off, effective immediately. So, what already started out as a flaming hot mess is now an even hotter flaming hot mess. And I guess the reason I bring it up again, other than the fact that it's just really fun to make fun of people when they do really, really dumb shit, is because of something we alluded to last week. They announced earlier this year that they were going to be going public via SPAC. Now, that agreement is currently being delayed after recent changing terms to the original agreement. So read into that however you want. Is it related? Is it not? I don't know. But if you're going public via SPAC and you have more SoftBank money, which they have, it's hard for me to imagine a scenario, given the current climate around their reputation, that even if they went public, no one is going to care. Like, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, this reminds me a little bit of when Uber first went public, and then the original founding CEO got ousted because it turned out he was a terrible person. It kind of reminds me of that, where investors were really hesitant to get involved, nobody really wanted anything to do with it, and then lost money for a really long time. Is history repeating itself? I guess, what do we think?
I feel like Uber's a little different. Uber's got a lot of other problems going on beyond just...
They do. That's very fair.
Bad CEO. They have a lot of labor relations problems.
The new one is better than the old one, but yes, the labor relations problems are still very much present.
But when they were first, there's a lot of question marks about Better.com. What they do? They're real.
Yeah, so they're right? Mortgage payment processing and paperwork and shit.
Yeah, I feel like that's a known industry. I guess whatever their business model is, probably is something investors have seen before. So, I feel like it's a little bit different. That being said, I do think there is still an initial yeah, bro, I'm kind of, until you guys are out of the out of the red target a little bit, I don't really want to be attached to you.
How cheap would they have to be for you to consider buying them, if there is a price? I personally could find a million other things that I would be more interested in that don't have a bunch of shitty people, one shitty person in charge.
Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't. I mean, like, I don't even know what the average price for a company like that is. So, like,
Well, in
um,
the terms of the SPAC, since the terms have been changed to the original agreement, we don't even know what that price is going to be.
yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I don't know what similar companies are valued at. Like, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
so how would I know if I'm getting a good? Like, you could tell me it's $5, and for all I know, that could be like really expensive, like comparative to their competitors. Maybe I think that sounds good, but then you tell me like, oh, all the competitors trade at like 50 cents a share. That's like how it works. Like, I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I got ripped off, maybe.
I don't know enough about it to give you a concrete price target, but I can tell you, generally speaking, that $5 for stock is very cheap.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I'm just pulling random significant figures off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
it's just, so I don't know. Yeah, I probably wouldn't invest my money in them, I guess, in general, but I don't know. $5 then, maybe?
Nice.
Kyle, would you buy it at $5?
I mean, at $5, I'd probably, yeah, that's kind of a deal. So I guess, sure, why not? But at the same time, like, I feel like it would have to be something ridiculously cheap, or the CEO would probably have to step down before I would consider buying it at like a reasonable like market price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
so
probably
then
is.
follow-up question. This is the second SoftBank backed company, WeWork being the other, that in recent years has absolutely just imploded. So, the fact that startups used to be backed by SoftBank was something that was really appealing to investors as like, this is the cream of the crop. With two very, very high profile misses in recent years, do we think that that starts to lose some of its appeal? Or do we just chalk it up to the fact that people are human and they make mistakes?
Nah, I mean, people are gonna miss. Have they been missing more than usual? Just because your misses are public doesn't mean that. I
Well,
mean,
the
like, yeah.
WeWork one was huge. They are going to lose more money than you could count.
Yes, I
Like
understand
billions
that.
of dollars have
But like,
been flushed
what
down the
are
toilet.
what are their successes? Have they still been churning out successes at the same rate? If that's the case, then I would say no. Like, yeah, okay, it sucks that your two misses are really big, but I'd rather have someone who doesn't miss very often versus someone
Okay, so
who misses
you are
most of
not
the
rattled
time.
at this point. Okay.
Well, I don't know. That's what I was asking you. Have they been successful? If you were saying no, they haven't put out anything good in a while, then I'd be like, yeah, no, that's probably a bad sign. Then they've lost their fastball and people are starting to hit it. But like one bad outing, I guess.
So I could read you a bunch of these, but I don't think it's really gonna answer your question because a lot of these are so niche that the average person, ourselves included, has never heard of them.
I see.
Mm.
I guess
So-
do they have do they have investment revenue numbers that they post year to year? Like, is there growth outside of like the 2 years where WeWork imploded, and this year, I guess, with them losing a bunch of money on Better.com, like, are they showing consistent growth in return on their investments? If so, then I would say yes.
2021, they are set to post 10.5% decline. So,
Okay,
large
that's off
percentage decline, but to be fair, that's still over $50 billion in
Okay,
revenue.
how much of that is due to Better.com?
Who the hell knows? Probably not a lot.
Okay,
If I'm guessing, not a lot at all.
Mm.
It's less about the money, though, and it's more about if that is something that people use to help determine whether or not they think an investment has the potential to be a high-quality one.
well, I
Is
think
that
if
a
you were-
metric that can still be trusted?
I mean, if you were using it as I mean, like, it should just be a recommendation at best. Like, in my mind, like, if you're ever using,
Oh,
like,
in
a
your
company-
mind, that makes perfect sense, but recall that the average person is very irrational.
well, no, then it makes zero sense to buy something just because someone else bought it. That is not ever good logic. Like, that shouldn't be your sole decision. If you want to look at it because this company bought it and they tend to buy interesting things, then fine. But you shouldn't just buy things because someone else bought it. That's terrible logic. No.
All right. This is
It's
the third
bad.
week in a row that I've asked a question that has made you very angry. I'm keen to
Bad.
keep this streak going. I kind of like it.
Why would you do that, though? I mean, like, like, you don't turn on the TV and actually buy, like, what that dude yelling at you tells you to buy.
Oh, but
just 'cause
people do, and
You
that's
do.
why
It's
those
not
people are rich.
zeros.
How do you think Billy Mays had the money to finance a cocaine problem?
Ooh.
Like,
Was it not the OxyClean?
not to speak ill of a dead person, but like people buy that shit. That
yeah.
psychology is very alive and well in America, in particular.
Oh yeah, products, but like, do people actually like buy investments like that? I mean, I guess.
How
like,
do you
that's
think
not
all
the-
those daytime TV shows of talking suits? Like,
Well, that's
why
what
are
I'm
those
saying.
on TV
Like,
if people
do
don't
they
do that
actually,
stuff?
Do people actually like? I see those more as like like entertainment, if that makes sense. Like, it's just funny to watch a guy yell about stocks and get mad about money. Like, that's what it is to me. Like, it's not informative, if that makes sense. I mean, maybe it's kind of informative because it gets names out there and then I look at them, but you know, like, I would never be like the bald man said buy stonk. I would never say Reddit said buy stonk, right? like you shouldn't do that. If you want to buy something because there's a reason to buy it or because you like what it stands for, even if it's a bad investment, then fine. But like, you know, if you want to say like, yeah, we're just gonna try to fuck the system, I don't care if I burn my money. Yeah, invest in it if you want. But you should never just buy it because someone on Reddit said, yeah, like diamond hands. Like, I don't what?
Oh my.
I mean, I don't think so. Like,
You don't think so? Okay.
I think investors will still be like, look, like, unless you're like missing a lot. Like, you know, I mean,
They do have some fairly high-profile companies on here that are doing very well. Nvidia, the chip people are on here.
Oh,
Or
Nvidia?
however you say that.
Yeah.
They're on here. ByteDance is on here. Obviously, we're very familiar with.
They own 80% of Boston Dynamics. Oh, no, they own 20% of Boston Dynamics.
They do.
They sold 80% of it. So like
To the Hyundai Group, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
yeah, so like if these are the kind of hits that they put out, like I would say like, yeah, okay, these were big misses. And yeah, maybe as an investor you did think they were the golden child before, and you know, they're mortal. Oh, woe is them.
Yeah.
I guess.
Oh no, we only made $50 billion, right? Like,
yeah, like
down 10% year over year is never good, but if you look at the rest of the portfolio, I am inclined to agree. I think there's more in there. Like, yeah, you had some misses, and they unfortunately happen to be very high profile. But like the rest of the things in here look fairly solid.
Yeah, I think the most questionable thing they bought recently is Yahoo Japan. Like, does Yahoo still do anything? Like, why would you buy that?
I'm not at all familiar with the Japanese market, so I.
Oh, okay. So in Japan, Yahoo's big. So okay, they bought the useful part of Yahoo, I guess. So whatever.
I actually use it very often.
Yeah, apparently they bought Yahoo Japan brand from Verizon for 1.6 billion this year.
All right.
So I mean, they seem fine, honestly.
Okay, well, we're going to move on to another very high-profile. I don't want to call it a failure because it's technically not a failure yet. We've talked a couple of times about Evergrande at this point. They are in the news again because they are still at risk of default. And now, the CEO and chairman is selling his own personal shares in the stock of the company to pay down the debt of the company so the company does not default fully on its obligations.
What company is this? Everbrand?
Evergrande, the Chinese real estate conglomerate that we've been talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, another week, and they haven't collapsed yet. But the fact that they keep edging closer to the cliff definitely makes me feel like some market volatility is coming. And then I don't know if you saw the news this week that Chinese companies, if they don't follow newly established compliance measures in the United States, will be required to delist and be traded somewhere else. Oh. So, obviously that could be a huge deal. So between those two things, I guess it feels to me as though things are going to get worse before they get better for the market as a whole. Like, gut reaction, do you feel the same? Are you optimistic that there are other opportunities that might kind of help you ride out some of this volatility? What do we think?
So they're for sure Dunzo.
I don't know about for sure, but the fact that he's selling his own shares to pay down the debt is really not a good sign. I mean, I commend the man for doing it. Like, a lot of American CEOs would never do that.
Yeah.
So, like, props to him for at least making the effort. But they're... How much are they in debt? I had the number somewhere.
300 billion of
Yeah, there it is. So 300 billion, and they're guesstimating because his most recent transaction was not disclosed in terms of the amount. They're guesstimating it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $64 million. So a lot of money, but compared to 300 billion, you got a long way to go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm looking at other international markets in hopes that there might be a way around some of this volatility. I mean, you look at India, you look at some other countries in that part of the world, and there's reasons to be optimistic about certain things that you could buy into. But I have a hard time believing if they do end up defaulting, and if very, very prominent Chinese companies that are a significant portion of investors' portfolios are required to delist, which they may not be, right? If you don't comply with the new measures, you could be required to delist. But there's no news at this point as to whether or not they're going to comply or not comply. And if they don't comply, it doesn't sound like there's been a firm determination on when they would be required to delist. So,
how invasive are the new measures? Like, what are they being asked to
I
do?
think it's like accounting and compliance stuff.
Like, would it really be something that companies wouldn't do, to be honest? Like, that's what I'm asking. Like, is
Well,
it that
depends.
annoying or that secretive?
Is the government in your ear telling you that you should not comply?
I don't know. Is that something China has said that they would do? Like, I don't know. Maybe everyone just complies, honestly. I don't know.
I'm trying to find the most recent.
Do we have an example where China has done that? Like, maybe have you even tried it before? Do we know China would for sure be like, don't comply?
Well, so DD is already in the process of delisting.
Okay.
So they are now pursuing a listing in Hong Kong. Essentially, while the Chinese government has yet to outright ban foreign listings, new rules announced this summer make it complicated for Chinese IPOs to be successful in the United States.
Okay.
So, it sounds like there's some political maneuvering going on both sides that could potentially force them out, one way or another. Now, depending on where they go to be relisted, if you have the right kind of connections, you could probably still get access. But it depends on where you go to be relisted and what the requirements in that country are, because every country has different requirements. So, I am not, unfortunately, familiar enough with Hong Kong to speak to that specific example. But it's not uncommon for a lot of very, very large, well-known companies to have secondary listings in Hong Kong just because of its proximity to other major Eastern markets. So, it's one of those things where I think initially, if companies delist, the market as a whole will take a hit and people will be mad. But I think it's one of those things where over time it will recover relatively well. I mean, eventually it will just become the new normal and that'll just be what it is and it'll be fine. I think it's more of potentially be prepared for some short-term pain amidst some of the other volatility going on more than anything else.
Yeah, I guess people might be annoyed that they go somewhere else, but as long as they can get it somewhere else, I guess they probably will complain, but comply? Question mark? I don't know. What else is an investor gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the company is at the mercy of the rules of the exchange and whether or not they decide to comply or not.
Yeah.
Or whether or not their government will allow them to comply or whatever, right? So So if you want shares of those companies, I suggest you start researching ways to figure it out, because I don't know if you're going to be able to just log into the markets as usual and buy them. But enough
Makes
doom and
sense.
gloom speculation. We have other news to attend to. Kellogg's. Don't know if you know this. Kellogg's workers have been on strike for quite some time amidst labor negotiation disputes. Basically, they're not paying people enough money, and it's the same thing that we've talked about 100 times, right? Working conditions are not great, people are underpaid, people get pissed, they strike. The only difference in this case is that Kellogg's, and I don't actually know how this was announced. I don't know if it was leaked or if they just came out and owned it. They are planning on permanently replacing striking workers. Now, for those of us familiar with union disputes, that's a major no-no. Like, you don't do that.
Yeah, you don't.
Because the ability to protest is as American as apple pie. And if you have people who are protesting and you effectively terminate their employment and hire somebody else, it makes people very, very angry. So,
Unless it's sports.
well, yes, unless it's sports. Fast forward to this week, and people on TikTok and Reddit have been flooding their online job application portals with bogus resumes and bogus applications so that they cannot hire people to replace striking workers. And now, the President of the United States has issued a tweet condemning the practice. So, amidst all of this stuff, let's see, let me pull up. In the last week, despite all of this, they have only lost 1.26%. They're currently trading at $62.62. So despite all of this, the stock has really not suffered.
People still buy cereal.
Yes, but there are so many kinds of cereal.
Kellogg owns a lot of them, though.
That is true.
Who is the other cereal brand owners? Like, who are the other
Post.
cereal conglomerates? Post?
General Mills.
General Mills is the big one that I was thinking of. Yeah, I was like, there's another.
I
Like,
don't
really
think
big one.
the General Mills is separate from Kellogg's, right? They have to be.
I hope so. That's the only
Yes,
big
they are.
one that I was
Okay.
thinking of.
Yes, they're separate. Yeah. So I mean, you've got Kellogg's, General Mills, Post is probably your third. But I guess it's kind of disappointing to me that the share price hasn't dropped more. Do you think it's just a case of people don't care enough to change the type of breakfast cereal that they buy? Is it that people aren't aware that this is going on because there's so much news about everything else that's wrong in the world at this precise moment in time? What do we
Remember,
think?
the price isn't reflective necessarily of the actual value of the company is necessarily. It's the reflection of the investors.
Yes, but I mean, we've seen
No
a
one sells,
number
like,
of other examples of companies who have bad news hit the headlines and the share price
I think the
tanks.
problem is like how many people invest in cereal who care about strikers. I'll put it that way.
So
Like,
essentially,
yeah.
your argument is, if people have invested in it, it's probably a passive part of some type of retirement portfolio. They may not even know that they have it.
Yeah, they probably don't know that they have it, or they bought it because they like the money that cereal can make them. Like they're buying it for strictly financial reasons, and they probably don't give a shit about whether or not you treat your employees well. Like, and yeah, this is bad publicity, and bad publicity is bad publicity, but like in the honest long run, like they'll probably agree to some deal eventually, and it will blow over. Like that's what will probably happen. Like eventually, like I don't think probably won't be a good deal for the union workers too, to be honest. Still, but
I mean, we can hope so, but yes,
I mean,
history is usually not kind to those types of things.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I feel like the people, because like it's only gonna go down if people sell, and I feel like the people who are holding it don't see a need to sell. Like they know that they and the other people who are holding it aren't going to sell it, so there's no reason to. Like even if people are buying less cereal because of this, like I legitimately think people are probably striking or not striking, boycotting Kellogg's products or whatever. Like they think in the long term it's just People are gonna forget it. People will buy cereal eventually.
Well, and so I guess the other thing that I wondered about, you wouldn't necessarily immediately see the effects of a customer boycott until you report earnings. And so, while everything you said is perfectly valid and makes total sense, and I honestly do agree with a lot of it, I'm going to be curious to see when they report earnings next, whether or not any of this catches up to them in a negative capacity.
I'm not sure. I guess
It's very possible that it doesn't. I certainly hope that it does, but
it depends on how
the
long
market
it
is a
stays.
cruel mistress, I suppose.
Yeah, I feel like
She
it
does
depends
not
on how
care.
long it stays in the public eye. Also, like, would earnings be affected by the customer? Like, stores buy most of Kellogg's cereal from Kellogg, I assume, right? Like, not. It's not.
Yes,
direct.
but if they don't sell it off the shelves, they're not going to buy more.
Oh, okay, I see. So if they stop selling it now, in the next 3 months, they won't buy as much.
Yeah. That would be the theory, anyway.
I don't know,
Because,
I
yeah,
feel
I
like
mean,
this-
you could still go to any grocery store, and I guarantee you it's still going to be on the shelf.
Yeah. I feel like this is going to be like a hard one to reflect on them though, because I mean, demand as a customer too. Like, if that's your favorite brand of cereal, you're not going to stop buying that cereal.
But see, I wish people would.
I don't
Because
know,
in the
people
grand
are-
scheme of things, is it really so hard to eat a different cereal for 3 weeks?
Yeah,
so
but
that
like
somebody
also,
can actually make a decent amount of money for making that exact cereal?
what if you have like a picky kid though, who's like, I'm not going to eat anything unless you give me that cereal. I'm not going to eat breakfast.
Then
I'm
I
gonna eat
politely
right.
sit down and look them in the eye and say,
You don't eat breakfast, kid.
Good luck.
somebody else's child doesn't get any breakfast this morning because Kellogg's
Nah,
doesn't pay them any
It's
money.
not even no. It's not even about the Kellogg's at that point. It's you're my fucking kid. You eat the. You think you're gonna tell me what you're gonna eat for breakfast, kid?
Yeah.
Come on, bro. You think I had a choice growing up? Nah. You eat what I put in front of you, or you.
That is also a compelling one. I think that could definitely work.
You eat what I put in front of you, or you go get food on your own. Then good luck.
Yeah. I feel like they're probably not going to be impacted that much unless their supply severely drops off a cliff.
Okay, so
I do-
hear me out then. As somebody who for a long time, and still does to this day, shop at Winco, buy the generic brand. They're almost the same damn thing in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
I
Like the
think
generic brand Cookie Crisp or whatever that stuff is called, practically the same. The Fruity Pebbles, the same. Now I realize that I don't think either of those are Kellogg cereals, but you get my point.
It was a General Mills, man. I don't know.
But there is a reason that generic brand cereal exists, and usually it's
Yeah.
pretty good.
What I
Be
think the problem
brave,
is
be adventurous, and try the generic brand cereal. You
I
just
see
might
the
like
social
it.
media like doing the boycott, so I think people are legitimately going to boycott it. It's just how
You
long
think that
until
they're just
something
being
else?
noisy online, but the
Well,
people
I mean,
who are noisiest online perhaps were never the people buying the cereal to begin with.
probably not, but I do feel like some people will boycott it. The problem is just like how long until you get mad about something else, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the hard part, right? Because news comes so fast these days about everything that's wrong with the world.
Yeah,
That-
there are.
Give it 3 more days, and there will be 10 other things that people will be more mad about, and that's just
Yeah.
the
There
unfortunate
are a
reality.
lot of things in the world to boycott if you want to boycott all of the bad things. So it's like it's a list, and I mean, like, yeah,
Yeah.
we should make the effort, but sometimes it gets long, and you forget.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, well, it wouldn't be one of these episodes if we did not also take a dig at private space flight, so we're going to do that one more time. Because I saw an article in Gizmodo on Friday. A new report has revealed that Jeff Bezos' ride to outer space emitted a lifetime worth of carbon pollution. So, it gets back to the same point that we've talked about a number of times. We have this very interesting disconnect where they donate hundreds of millions of dollars to the Climate Pledge Fund, and Amazon is talking about doing all this carbon neutral stuff and planting a bunch of trees and using more recycled packaging and electric delivery trucks and all this other shit, right? And then Jeff Bezos is flying around in his giant space penis and emitting all of the carbon for all of the things. Like, all of that stuff is practically worthless now. Like, if you're going to keep doing this, like, yes, it's better to keep doing the rest of that stuff than not do anything. But it makes everything ring so hollow. When on the one hand, you're giving all this money, and on the other hand, you're just like, oh, the rocket fuel. Like, come on, man, what are we doing?
I guess the problem is Jeff Bezos probably pays it as, like... Jeff Bezos sees it as, like... There's a room, right? And, like, he throws a party in it, and then he pays someone to clean it up. And, like, so, like, if he pays somebody enough money...
No.
Like...
Well, let's be fair, a lot of, like, the uber wealthy, that is the attitude.
Yeah, they should feel fine cleaning it up. I think the problem is that most of the world is like, this is my bedroom, though. Like,
yeah.
Like, it's not just a room that you threw a party in. Like, this is my house that you threw a party in. And then you gave me a bunch of money to clean it up, and I need to clean it up. So, like, the cleanup will happen, but, like, could you not have thrown the party? Just kind of the disconnect, I guess. But yeah, it does ring hollow because of that.
But I mean, again, harkening back to the fact that this is like a show about investing in companies who actually care about the things that they're doing and the consequences of their actions. Like, I think it further reinforces that private spaceflight should probably be off the table entirely unless they're actually going to commit to programs that effectively offset the enormous amount of emissions that are coming from a single one of these 10-minute flights.
Yeah, private space tourism is not worth the economic cost, I would say. If you were solving some sort of social or, like, you know, like supply or something else.
I keep wondering, like, instead of
sale.
investing all these hundreds of millions of dollars in rockets to fly to outer space, like, what would happen if we had invested that money to fix everything that's messed up on the planet we already have? You know?
Well, that's why people want to tax rich people, but right now that's not how it works. The people with the money get to decide how it's spent, and they decided that rockets to explore the other world would be the best path.
I know.
Tis not to.
Well, so let me ask you a hypothetical though. If you were rich enough to take one of these flights, and I come to you as the company that operates the rocket, and say, "Hey, your ticket is going to be like $50,000 extra now because I have to offset all of the pollution that comes from this rocket," do you still buy the ticket?
I mean, like, isn't it like already $1 million? Probably. Like, how much is it? How much is 50,000?
Some of them are like, the only price I can confirm is like $250,000.
Okay, so it's like a 25% or 20% increase. Yeah.
Wait, is that right, or was it a $2 million ticket? I don't remember. Let me look.
I feel like 250 makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, 20%, 120% of the original ticket cost, I'd probably pay it. I'm already paying you $250,000 to go to space.
Okay, so it's $450,000 a seat.
Okay, now it's $500,000. Yeah, I'm for sure paying it. 10%.
What if I tell you it's $750,000 now
instead of 450?
Yeah. What if it doubles?
There's a lot.
Almost doubles.
There's a lot, but I feel like if I wanted to do this, like if I didn't want to do it that bad, I would have waited till it was cheaper anyways. Like, I feel like once you get past a certain amount, like, you're willing to just do it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you're that rich, it really doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Like,
okay, so perfect. I've effectively solved this problem. Your customers are so damn rich that they don't care anyway. Jack up the price of the ticket to offset your own shit.
Well, I think
problem solved. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
They don't get enough people to sign up already. So if you jack up the price of the ticket, then definitely no one.
Virgin Galactic is backlogged, dude.
Is it backlogged now?
Yeah.
They're I thought they couldn't even fill their like initial flights or whatever.
No, SpaceX had to cancel one. Virgin Galactic has like, was it Virgin
But
Galactic?
we're talking about,
or was it SpaceX? Somebody had like 250 pre-registrations already. So, now remember, because of how expensive these are, I feel like 250 people is enough for a year, maybe more.
Maybe.
I'm fairly certain that's Virgin Galactic. Well, I'm not sure, but like, because the The Falcon has like what 5 seats or something. The
Yeah.
Virgin Galactic is like a bus in comparison.
Yeah.
So it's probably Virgin Galactic, but I think their ticket price is also far lower too. I think
Yeah,
they
I mean,
might be
with
the
the other
two
ones being
fifty.
private, it's hard. Like,
Yeah,
Blue Origin right now is like inviting random people. Like, Michael Strahan went to outer space. Like, what was it, yesterday or the day before?
Yeah.
Like, they're not selling tickets per se
yeah,
to a lot of these. They're like, hey, we're testing it out. Like, come give
Well,
us some PR and go to outer space.
that's the problem too. Just like testing and working on the rocket is probably a lot of the negative carbon costs. Like
Yeah.
like running the
I
engine
can only
over and over
imagine that
again.
it is.
So like you could never sell a single ticket and be so far in the red environmentally that like I don't know if it's ever like jacking the price of the ticket. I'm like I don't even know what cost you'd have to calculate it out to be. Like it might be massive just because of the initial investment to get a working rocket.
Yeah. All right, well, we're going to end tonight on some good news, or I should say potentially good news. There is speculation that sometime this week, Apple will become the first company in history to achieve a market cap of $3 trillion.
jeez.
Da, 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 da. So, my question to you, given that analysts and people who do this stuff for a living are now very, very excited not only about the devices, but the services businesses underneath the Apple umbrella. Which, for a long time, that was the transition. Can they make the leap from being a devices company to a services company? The fact that they are currently at $179.45, are they like one of the best bargains you could find right now? It's like if you're on the doorstep of $3 trillion and the long-term outlook is fantastic because you've developed this really robust services business and you own obviously a bunch of other stuff, it almost feels like really cheap to me. Like I don't own any right now, but I almost feel like I've been sleeping on it and I probably should.
Yeah, I mean, like considering how massive the company is and like how successful they are, like it doesn't like what is Google's price at? Like, I mean, it doesn't feel like.
Well, so remember that Apple just split last year.
Oh, that's right.
So they are very cheap. Alphabet stock is currently $2,960.
Yeah. So.
But the last time they split was like 6 years ago. No, 4 years ago. It was about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not
I don't
going
know. I guess it seems like pretty reasonable. I don't know. It doesn't like if you told me that price, I'd be like, I mean that's attainable by like your general person. I feel
Kyle?
like it's not.
Massive
Yeah.
bargain? What do we think?
I mean, probably. I mean, to your point, it's split a lot, so you got to think about like, well, what fraction does that
Yeah.
$161 actually buy you, and then multiply that by 3 trillion. But given that 3 trillion is a pretty big number,
Yeah.
you probably have a pretty good deal, I would say.
Well, so in the last year, it's gone up 47.33%, give or take.
Yeah, I mean,
Year
I
to
think
date,
Apple's-
it's up 38.67.
yeah, there's nothing to me indicating that the Apple ball is like rolling, right? Or is going to stop rolling anytime soon.
Yeah.
People still seem enamored with the whole ecosystem environment. They're spreading out into new technology. Like you said, they offer services now, which is something that that isn't dependent on a product life cycle
Yeah.
to survive, or like product of iteration.
Let's also not forget the Apple Car that we had a very robust and entertaining, nonsensical debate about a couple weeks
I mean,
ago.
like just new technology in general. Like they, and I think that's good for them, right? Like,
Yeah.
like we talked about it when we talked about the car. They used to be innovators.
Yep.
I mean, at this point, phones are very similar to the iPhone, which is still kind of homage to them. But fact remains, it doesn't stand. It still stands out, but not in the same way as the original iPhones did.
Yeah, I mean, the reveal of the 13 was not nearly as groundbreaking as, like, this is
Yeah.
the original iPhone type of a moment.
I mean, even the types of things they talk about during those keynotes have changed a lot.
Yep.
And like they're into hardware now. Like,
Yep.
they make their own silicone. So, or well, they design their own silicone, I guess. So, they are they have set themselves up pretty well, like all over the place. So yeah, it seems pretty cheap to me, especially when like it continues to grow. Pretty. It was the first to a trillion in general, right? Now it's the first to three. So
I believe it was. It was them or Amazon.
yeah, like it's pretty fast.
Yeah, they were the first to hit 1 trillion.
Yeah, I think I
Good memory.
remember that. So
They were also the first company to hit 2 trillion.
yeah, so no one's like they
are pacing everybody at this point.
yeah, they're showing the growth. So I would say yeah, for sure.
I wonder what would happen if you bought $10,000 of Apple stock today. I wonder how much it would be worth in 5 years. I have
5
nothing
years.
more than my own curiosity. So a lot can change in 5 years. Nothing is forever, but
Well, how much would you have made 5 years ago? What would you have been in your return on investment?
I
can't
have
obviously
a chart
expect the same
actually right here when I was looking at the share price. So in the last 5 years, it has gone up 519%.
You made a lot of money.
Yikes.
5 times your money back. It's pretty good.
Not bad at all.
Now, I don't know if you can expect.
Well, and that's what about this question is so dangerous, right? You see all of these really flattering headlines and all of the fantastic stuff that's going on. And the more you drink the Kool-Aid, the more it starts to sound like a sure thing. And then
I don't know if
the
you can
market
expect,
bludgeons you over the head with a mallet, and
I don't know if you can
things go
expect 5
sideways.
times. In the last 5 years, I think the explosions of smartphones has been pretty. That's like it's everywhere now. Like
Yeah.
everyone has a smartphone, cheap or nice. Like I think it's not just like limited to the premium phones now. Like
Yeah.
the smartphone market
Agreed.
is massive. Like Apple makes like they don't design cheaper iPhones really. I mean they do kind of. Like there are alternative models, but for the most part it's pretty standard. But
Yeah.
like they have so many models now that if you want a cheap iPhone, you just buy like you would buy like the 11 now or something instead of the 13.
yeah, you just buy one that's a little bit older,
Yeah.
and that's
At
it.
this point, you have that kind of like
Yeah.
in the early days, you probably didn't have that option because they're so different from each other. You wanted certain things, but at this point, you're not missing out on a ton going back 2 generations, right? Like,
I don't think they had multiple versions until like
I think the 5C was the first time.
I was gonna say I think the
Well, they had
fifth
the cheap
one was
one?
the first time they ever did anything different.
Well, they
Or
had
I
the
should say
4 and the
multiples.
yeah, they had the 4 and the 4S. Like I think they had like a Cup 2 for a while, but then the 5 one was the first time they had like a cheap one. I remember it being marketed as like cheap.
Yeah, with the plastic back and the
Yeah.
rainbow colors. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. 5 times is a lot. Like I feel like there does need to be like a big event during that time period to get. Maybe not. Maybe they just.
I mean,
they just
5
keep
years, assuming that the project runs true to timeline, would give you an Apple car.
it Yeah.
If you believe in all of that rampant speculation, I suppose. It's going to be interesting, though. Very, very curious to see what happens.
Maybe they have a deal with everyone with Apple Car. That they get to use like the car's cameras to also train their AI at the same time.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a thing. I'm not sure.
Could you imagine the type of functionality they could try to conjure up if you had an iPhone in an Apple car?
Yeah, I'm sure it would be all integrated or whatever.
Oh,
Yeah.
to a level that the average person probably cannot even imagine at this point.
I can see the Apple Car having a slot for your iPhone that like is shaped for the iPhone too.
Actually, no.
Yeah.
The base car doesn't come with a steering wheel, so if you have an iPhone, then you use the gyroscope as the steering wheel.
Oh, nice.
You gotta pay
Just
extra for the
it's like
steering wheel.
it's like Mario
Honestly, I
Kart.
think that would be
Yeah.
so hard.
It would be.
I feel like
And-
it would be so easy for you to wreck a car if
Have
you're
you seen?
driving
have
it
you
like
ever-
this.
Yeah. If you ever watch someone who drives normally but has never driven in a video game before try to drive in a video game, it's
Yep.
hilarious. You overcompensate because like in the driving normally you gotta go fucking like this to turn left or right every time, and all you need to do is like this in Mario Kart. So
Yep.
like when my parents first tried to play that game, they would just go in circles like, all the time. Like,
Nice.
they have to get used to like
Yeah. I remember the first time I ever
just
got a
turn the
Logitech
amount you
steering
want your
wheel.
car to turn.
Yeah, for my Need for Speed on the Nintendo GameCube. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I was awful.
He did the hand over hand. You were like, whoa.
Yeah, like straight sideways into the barrier every time.
Like,
Maybe it's
that's not
like
bad,
the
but-
living incarnation of Siri will like chauffeur you around.
Nice.
I think that would be it. Like you would tell your iPhone, like, "Hey, I want to go to the. I'm going to work." You'd say that as you're going out.
Yeah,
You
Siri,
put your
take
phone in
me
the
to
car.
work.
You turn on the car, and you don't have to use like your car's GPS or whatever, or like
Yeah.
you don't have to like do it after connect. Like your phone just connects to the car, and the car's just like, "All right, we going to." Like,
This is where we are going. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, let's go. Self driving. Just let's go. You know?
What a wild time to be alive.
For sure.
Well, 2 weeks down, 2 weeks to go. You both sound content, so it doesn't sound like there are any moves on the horizon for either of you.
Well, I might sell my Microsoft stock. I don't think it's going to go up anymore, and it's
Yeah.
at a pretty good place for the year. So it's a lot of money to get back. Could theoretically do something with it. But
Yeah, I mean, if you want to lock in some gains and make sure that you're in the green for the year, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I'm still casually shopping, I'm not going to lie. The crypto volatility has me a little bit nervous. I was hoping to be a little bit further ahead at this point in time. But we'll see.
Maybe I make a gamble. I sell everything and put it into
one altcoin,
and see if it shoots up.
it only has to shoot up over the course of one day. If you catch it and sell it, then you
Yeah.
just lock it in.
That is true.
Oof.
That's all it takes. Alrighty, guys. Well, I will leave you to your altcoin research in case you decide to take that gamble. But have a great week. Best of luck. Hopefully the numbers are a little bit better when we talk next week. And see you next time.
Yeah, see you guys.
Later.
See you guys.